prophecy. I prophecy. I think I found him. Almost. Come on in. He's very close, I can tell.
Well, I prophesy that the prophet of At will not prophesy in the future, but the prophet of At will be the prophecies.
At crown, the hat? Well, that's an interesting little question, because when the prophet of At first came into being, he wasn't the prophet of At. He was the Pope of At. And I actually debuted or introduced the public to the prophet of At right here at Cal State in one of my classes, general education classes. I believe it was Circus for Self-Definition. And so I introduced the prophet of the Pope of At, and oh, I bumped the mic there. There's potential prophecies and mistakes too. So there could be, in the future, there could be something to that big bump. I'm sorry about your ears. So anyway, I debuted the prophet of At over in ACD hall there, alternating current, direct current hall there. And like I said, I introduced him as the Pope of At. And I got to thinking about it after I introduced him after class, and I thought, that's pretty ostentatious, you know, to call yourself the Pope of At. And so I downgraded it to a hack Southern California prophet. And so that's when the prophet of At was born, or created, or came into virtual and actual being. I kept meditating on this at symbol, and it seemed like there was a lot more to it than just sending email. I mean, if you look at it, it has just got this tremendous kind of lodestone, you know, poetic metaphor. It just looks like it will take you to the ethereal realms, and you can dip into those ethereal realms. And where else but, you know, on the internet can you get a totally disembodied message and messenger. So that's it. I mean, that's really the long and the short of it. There's probably more to it. Television, you know, definitely, you know, seeing the men land on the moon, you know, on television, that was truly a transformative moment. My biggest influence, you might say, when people ask me what my astrological sign is, I say Sputnik, because 1957 Sputnik was the first human-made object to be put in geosynchronous orbit around the Earth. So I would say my greatest influence would be satellites, and television satellites, and of course Sputnik. It's kind of sad to think about that Sputnik is up there with all those 750 million other pieces of space junk, which is really becoming a problem. You know, there was an article in the New York Times last week about how there's all this space junk floating around, and it's becoming more and more perilous at various geosynchronous orbits that you might crash into it. But again, you're like bumping into the mic. I think that mistakes and trash and the like are there's hidden prophecies there. I tell everyone, turn your cell phones on, call your grandmother. It's really important that there's these ways. So the element for the prophet of that is really, when in the analog world, in this world, is really cell phones and kind of wireless waves passing through the hat. But online, the prophet of that gets his prophecies from the internet. And sometime back, it was like, you can see it here, 1999. This was the year of the Y2K bug scare. You remember that? When the world was going to come to an end, and all these folks who want to get off the grid were panicking and storing up, saving up water and butane tanks and food, and they're ready to go because the apocalypse is going to happen. And of course, we all know, this was during the dot-com boom, and that's really where the prophet came from. The prophet was like a child of the dot-com boom and bust. It was like an old-fashioned gold rush days, where people were IPOs or EPOs or initial public offering. And I thought, what the heck? I should give my own initial public offering of a prophet. Hugo Ball. Well, I'm always envious of his hats. And the kind of the inspiration for the Pope hat, the prophet of that hat, that there's a picture of Hugo Ball with those claw hands, and he has this big hat, kind of chef's hat, Pope's hat, prophet of that hat on, and that was he was a big inspiration because of his nonsense poetry that he would perform at the Cabaret Voltaire. And his most famous one is Karawani, in which he speaks meaningless phenomenons, endless rows, strings of endless phenomenons. It all began with my mother. My mother, before we would go to school in the morning, she would put on Jack LaLanne on television, and we would do our exercises, and Jack LaLanne would play this song called Go You Chicken Fat Go. And my mother got a copy of this, Go You Chicken Fat Go, and I thought that was pretty amazing because it came from television, and my mother had a copy of it. And for a 5-year-old, very impressionable that had. So, and we had an upright piano in our house, and my mother was always making up these own songs of herself. And she never would sing a whole song all the way through. It was always a pastiche, always a montage. What's the word I'm looking for? I need some. Yeah, that might help. So anyway, my mother, and of course then television, and my sisters, and then on and on and on. The radio. I mean, the radio had a tremendous fascination to me because you couldn't see what was producing the sound other than the radio itself. So again, that's tapping into that kind of ethereal realm. That's in the unconscious. Yeah, this image here, that is the piety. That is, there's a story behind that. My mother actually found this, the statue buried up to the Virgin Mary's head was sticking out of the ground in this old country farm house. And she immediately recognized that this was the head of the Virgin Mary, and it was part of the Pietà. Without light, there is no. Oh, I need a prophecy here. It's getting weak, getting weak. You know, so the hat, it's got to have. Do any of you have more cell phones? There we go. Okay. Oh yeah, that one's even ringing. Okay, yeah. Oh, it's getting stronger, getting stronger.
Is that helping?
Oh yeah, quite a bit, quite a bit. They are no longer bound to the laws of rational thought, of the Aristotelian categorical guardrailed in thinking. It can't be planned. You know, it's like stubbing your toe. You can't really plan on that. Would you like some prophecies? So let's see. Prophecies. Well, I'm in Southern California. They're bright. All right. Beep, 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 beep. Oh, I prophesy that in the future the prophet of that will not prophesy, but the prophet of that will be prophecies. I prophesy that in the future you will not answer your phone, you will be your phone. Beep, 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 beep. I prophesy that in the future you will not work at your computer, you will be your computer. Oh, there's one. Got to catch it in here. Oh, it's really strong. It's Laika from outer space. You know, Laika, the space dog that the Russians murdered in deep space. Beep, Laika. Laika is sending me a prophecy. Laika says, in the future, you will not feed your dog, you will be your dog. How's that?